He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
And we're back.
We're back. Angry
Jan
Mortgage.
and Ron. Because everybody wants me to introduce ourselves every time.
Every time.
You know what's weird is that I think that we have pretty dedicated listeners normally, right?
Yeah.
So we need to reintroduce ourselves every time.
We got to stay open for people who find us.
Stay open for people who find us. That's fair. Okay,
Who
Ron,
find us
Jan,
at episode 50
Angry
something.
Mortgage, 50, so whatever episode this
Yeah.
is. I don't know what the hell it is.
We
but
stopped counting.
But it'll be on the YouTube scroll. It'll be, you can find it if you want.
It'll say.
If you want to. It'll say. We are back anyway. So we got lots of interesting stories this week. Mortgage world never stops, man. It never
drama,
stops. It never
the
stops.
fraud.
Shit is happening, okay?
It's always hitting the fan.
Always something going haywire. All right, so we had a report from the Canadian Real Estate Association, which is all of Canada. What's happening with house sales? What's happening with prices? And the bottom line is pretty shitty, okay? But because they love to promote themselves, they pointed out that the house sales were actually a tiny, tiny bit better in June than in May. Now, they failed to mention that May was one of the worst Mays in 15 years, okay? But yeah, they missed that.
That's the fine print.
And the increase was so small, you did a microscope to find it, okay? Like it was a tiny, I think it was a 1/10 of 1% increase, okay? So very, very small.
To them, a win is a win.
Take the win. That's one thing that associations believe in. It doesn't matter whether you're the mortgage association, doesn't matter whether you're the realtors. We're going to tell you everything's good. That's it.
Smiling wave.
Everything is going great. Okay. All right. They did have to say that, in fact, versus last year, prices in Canada overall are down 3.4%. So this is obviously a big country. Prices may not be down at all in Alberta. Might not be down at all in Atlantic Canada. Might be just fine in Quebec. But they're sure as hell probably down in Ontario and probably British Columbia. So that's where that number comes from. And hey, from the vantage point of Ontario, it is extremely slow. We've talked about before, house sales are very, very slow, and they don't seem to show any sign of changing. So we're probably going to be pretty... Now, one interesting thing is going on, though. The reality is that mortgage rates will come down. So we had in the U.S., because let's face it, we're like the tail of the dog, right? So U.S. wags, we move around, all right? That's
They
it.
say
So,
jump, we say how high.
I'm not saying we're subservient. We're not. We're an independent country, but our economies are highly linked. We're highly influenced. So a good thing happened as far as prices are concerned in the United States. They had announced their inflation was getting better.
That's good.
So their inflation runs a little hotter than ours because they have a much more dynamic economy, a more vibrant economy than we do. So even though they have high interest rates, for instance, the interest rates in Canada are around low 5% for a mortgage. Okay, the interest rates in the U.S. are all over 6%, sometimes by quite a bit. Okay, so it is harder to get a new mortgage in the U.S. for sure. Okay.
But the house prices kind of balance that out, no? And compared to here.
Hell yes.
So
hell yes, they do. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we had the wild experience of comparing two cayugas. Now there's two cayugas. There's a cayuga in Ontario, and there's a cayuga in New York. And well, I'll just say it. No, they're not spelled exactly the same, but they're the same. They're similar in that they're small communities.
Okay.
They're small communities. Cayuga, Ontario, Cayuga, New York. And Cayuga, for some reason that I cannot completely explain, in Cayuga, Ontario, the average price is around $9.18.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cayuga, Ohio. Sorry, my mistake. Not New York, Ohio. Cayuga, Ohio. Okay. I think it's Cayuga Falls, Ohio. Those prices are $194. So, up here we got $9.18.
Yeah.
And down there we got $194. So yeah,
that's so insane.
It's fucked up. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So, to your point, yes, the prices are a lot less, but still, it's an interesting reflection that we have lower interest rates in Canada, and our inflation is coming down faster. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I fully expect that the next couple of prints we have will be down, but what's really important is our economy is deteriorating. So let's just look at what's going to happen to mortgage rates. This good inflation report in the U.S., good by the fact it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was expected to be 3.1. We got 3%. Good. We'll see lower bond yields. We saw lower bond yields in the U.S. We saw lower bond yields in Canada. And that pushes down fixed mortgage rates. Not so fast, though, because, again, we keep talking about it endlessly. It's not linear. There's bounces up and down.
Yeah.
But I think what it does clearly indicate to every thinking person on both sides of the border, people who are close observers of this, is that the Fed's going to cut. And we always expected the Fed to cut, but all of a sudden, it's a 68% chance the Fed will cut in early September. Now, that's a bit unusual because that's getting right into the presidential campaign, and they hate to do anything up or down during the Fed doesn't like to influence the election.
Right.
So they don't there's normally a sort of a 2-month window. They don't do much or don't do anything, but there could be a Fed cut in the very early part of September because it's a November election date, right?
Right.
So you got 2 full months.
They're right on the cusp.
They're on the cusp. That's absolutely correct. Okay. So a cut in the U.S., 68% chance. Definitely a cut if we see a inflation print in the U.S. below 3%, we are definitely going to see a cut as soon as the election's over. And this, of course, will encourage the Bank of Canada because we have lousy jobs numbers here, and it's evident to anybody. Sometimes when I say we have lousy jobs numbers, I forget to talk about all the other shitty things that are going on, right? So we have this constant renewal increases. Everybody gets a renewal, thousands of renewals every week, and they're always higher, right? We have that going on. So all of a sudden, everybody's paying more for their mortgage, thousands of people every week. We have rapidly rising personal bankruptcies and consumer proposals. Like, it's just taken right off. Okay. Wow, so that's not a good sign, obviously. Like, when I take taken off, I'm talking about like from 2 years ago, like 60-70% increases. Big numbers. Now, 2 years was a super low point. 2 years ago was super low.
Yeah.
But wow, that's huge jumps. And come on, that's not good.
No, of course not.
And we see all kinds of rising delinquency numbers in credit cards, auto loans. Like, there's no positives whatsoever to do with the Canadian economy right now. And that means that our governor, Bank of Canada governor, is going to want to cut. Jeff Macklin, well, I promised we'd roll the puppet out eventually. We will roll them up and out sometime. But, if it's not July, although the chances for 2 weeks from now, or about 10 days from now, are increasing. If not now, soon. And I truly believe there will be another 2 cuts this year, and then followed by more next year. So, the future of mortgage rates in Canada is lower. It's just that simple truth.
What impact do you think that's going to hit for the real estate pricing?
Yeah, what I think we will see is...
Historically, they hike up.
Historically...
Right? Like, COVID was just a prime example.
Well, you couldn't ever dream of a better example. Yeah, in 2021, we had a bunch of rates. We had 5-year fixed rates for 1.59. We had variable rates for 1%. 1% mortgage rates?
That should go down in, like, history books.
Oh, shit. Yes, it will. Not in a good way. Absolutely not in a good way. And we had explosive increase in real estate prices. Nutty, crazy. People will look back on, the only thing that historians and economists will look back on that period of time, they'll say two things. They'll say, what the fuck were they thinking, those Bank of Canada guys? What the fuck were they thinking? Number one. Of course, everybody says, well, it was COVID, Ron, and that was an emergency, so you can do anything you want in an emergency. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the right way to try to deal with an emergency anymore. But you're right. If interest rates are going to go down I suspect by March, we'll see interest rates that started at 5% before this cut in June. I think we'll see them down to 4% in March, April. So that's a full percent. So to your point, will that bump housing prices? Will it? Hey, historically, yes. Like you said, when we had fucking 1% rates and 1.49% 5-year fix, all this crazy under 2% rates, we had some places the prices went up 20%, 30% in a year.
Crazy.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay. Nuts. Totally stupid. Okay. So is it going to be something similar? Okay. And by the way, that's a great question, because if you're a young person who's been thinking, should I buy? But I want to get a good deal, but I don't want all of a sudden to be standing in the background waiting, and then all of a sudden the rates come down and the prices go back straight up. Okay?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. So let's think about it. Yes. The basic answer is yes. There could be real estate price rise if you knock 1% off of interest rates. Because they knocked a quarter off and really fuck all happened. Nothing happened, all right?
If anything, I feel like we've slowed down, but...
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, because again, that's a reflection of the economy, right?
Yeah.
So then that becomes the real question. We get 1% off by March or April. We're a full 1% lower interest rates. So maybe not necessarily on fixed rates. Maybe fixed rates are low fours. Variable still only, 4% variable, so 6.2 less. It's still a variable rate in the high fours. Okay, so are we going to have that flurry of activity that's going to push prices up? Maybe not, and I just say maybe not for this reason. The countervailing issue is an even shittier economy. Like, what if unemployment's 7.25%? By March or April? What if everybody's looking around thinking, am I next, in the job market? Am I the next one to get the layoff notice? I don't know that. Nobody knows these things, okay? But that would be a counterbalance to these falling interest rates.
Right.
And the other thing to consider is that a 4% rate isn't a 2% rate.
Yeah.
And unless the prices continue to come down steadily in Ontario and British Columbia, unless you have help from a parent, it's really tough still, right?
Yeah, I feel like even if you qualify just with the stress test alone, you're going to need that cosigner. Even if you have your down payment, you have your money, you have the funds, the income to do so, most likely people my age, young people, are going to need a cosigner.
Yeah, or down payment help.
Yeah, it's the new reality.
New reality. So, and then, by the way, that's a very interesting point you make, because in this new reality, but also in the new reality of house prices aren't obviously just going straight up. Okay, so the parents might stop and say, well, wait a second, is this really the time to buy? Like, we thought 2020, I helped your brother or your sister out back in 2020 when we thought those prices were going straight up, and they did. Okay, and they did. So there's no prices going straight up right now. So maybe, just maybe, you get a different attitude from those parents. You get a different attitude about, well, maybe this isn't the time to buy. Because ultimately, it's their decision to help, right?
Exactly. And when they compare it to, if they did a transaction during COVID, compare it to now, they're going to be like, oh, yikes. That's more than double the price, more than double the rates, everything.
Yeah, and plus they're not quite as enthusiastic because the price of their house has maybe drifted down a bit. The parents are sitting in a house that they might have paid next to nothing for. They might have no mortgage.
Yeah.
And they might have thought, well, look at this. Back in 2021, this house was worth $1.7 million, $1.8 million, $2 million, okay? I think it's only worth 1.3 today. You know, like.
So I really want to get into that and help you out when even my own home that's paid off is unstable.
Because I'm not feeling as wealthy.
Exactly.
Okay? I'm not
Exactly.
feeling, I'm not
I wasn't going to
feeling
get
it.
the same if I retire tomorrow. It's not the same. So I'm not in a good position to help out. Right.
Or I just don't feel like it.
Don't
You know,
want
I was
to.
really enthusiastic back in 2021, but I'm not as enthusiastic anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Those are actual considerations. You know, real estate, people talk about, often make the mistake of comparing other types of investments to real estate because, you know, in the last 20 years, we've really emphasized the investment side of real estate. You see it everywhere. You see it. There's something called a real estate coach. You know, like there's real estate investment clubs, and there's like you just see a lot of stuff.
So many of them follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so
Like,
much.
I don't want to
stuff.
take your master class. Thank you, though.
Oh no, don't take the master class. No. So that's a different world than when I started 30 years ago, right? I mean, like, it didn't exist.
No.
It really didn't exist. So the kind of obsession and interest in real estate as an investment, you know, sure, there were rental properties 30 years ago. Absolutely they were, okay? But mainly there were a lot of rental apartments, which were owned by corporations, okay?
Right.
And there were, sure, some people owned rentals, you know, but not the way today, no way, shape, or form, okay?
Yeah.
So they didn't own in the same way they did. So it's a different world. And the question you have to ask yourself is, will that die out? Will that sort of infinite enthusiasm? Because what we're learning is, unlike a real investment, like a bond or a stock or something that has traditionally been a store of value, I'm not saying real estate isn't, but what I'm saying is that it's individually bought and sold with very high transaction costs. You know, when you want to sell a stock, if you want to sell a stock on TD Waterhouse, I think it might cost you 16 cents to sell thousands of shares of stock. Okay, it might cost you $1. And by the way, it happens in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Cheaply in 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Real estate's nothing like that. Real estate is huge commissions, huge real estate commissions. You may be breaking a mortgage and paying a penalty. You got land transfer tax, for the love of God, in Ontario.
Of course.
You got it's like, holy shit, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a large transaction.
And it's slow and it's complicated. In the investment world, you call it friction. Okay. There's a lot of friction to selling a house. Tons. Like it's the highest friction thing you can imagine, which is the opposite of selling stocks on TD Waterhouse. TD Waterhouse, there's no friction. It's like Astroglide. Okay. Like it's just the best lube you can imagine on a TD Waterhouse. Okay. Did I slip a trolley there a little bit? Like maybe go
This is
upside?
why people can't listen with their kids in the car. It's because of you.
It's because of me. Yeah, you got to explain. Now you got to explain Astroglide to your kids, folks. Okay, or or the guy at the desk over from you, the person. What did I hear on your desk coming out of your computer? Yeah, you got to wear earbuds with us. Come on, now let's be reasonable. But yes, intense friction in house sales. Astroglide with stocks. Okay. Now, and the other consideration is, in the world of selling stocks and historically selling equities in a liquid marketplace like the equity markets are, there's no leverage. Like there's no, what I mean by leverage is no borrowing. Yes, if you're a big player, you might be able to get yourself a margin account, which is the bank loans you money to trade.
Yeah.
But it's lower leverage. It's very dangerous because the bank can just send you a email that says, "Yeah, we're going to wipe out your leverage account now." I mean, it's
yikes. Yeah.
But with a mortgage, you can leverage 5 times, right? Like you got 20% down, mortgage for 20% down payment, 80%, okay, as a loan, as a mortgage, okay. So that's leverage, but it's also more friction because you got to pay off the mortgage. You got to get a mortgage if you want to make that purchase. So it's a completely different kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, the truth is that it's if it's being sold as an investment, of course, everybody, when you go to your, what do you call them? The master class, right?
The master class.
The master class on making money at real estate. Okay. I know they keep throwing out the word long-term, right?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that a lot, right? With any kind of real estate investment. You got to be in for the long term. Matter of fact, people often say that about stocks. They say, you got to be in for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But what they, as we've described, the difference is in stocks, if you want to get out,
You can't.
it's easy.
Yeah.
It's effortless. It's
Yeah.
quick. You may lose money, but it's fast.
Sell
Okay?
and you're done.
Sell and you're done. With real estate, how about if you're living inside the real estate? Like, you don't live inside your stocks, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So you also got to figure out where you're going to move. Okay,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? So the complexity of the product means that I don't think it's totally well suited to pure investment. I mean, in the way that the master class is
The way
trying
they
to
make
describe
it seem.
as.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same. You're right. So we had, to that point, by the way, I'll tell you a story. It's also something I covered on an earlier YouTube, one of our 6-minute YouTube features. Imagine if you were willing to pay, can you picture this? You're willing to pay $270,000
Mm-hmm.
to not have to buy something.
Oh.
Yeah. $270,000
Hmm.
to get out of a purchase contract. So let me tell you the story.
Better be losing a lot more than that.
Well, that's the whole point. By the way, that's exactly the point. That you are willing to pay that much, or you would actively consider paying that much to get out of a situation that could get much worse.
Yeah.
All right. So one of our loyal listeners, viewers, people who follow me on social media, a very honest and forthright person reached out to me, direct messaged me and said, I want to tell you about my situation. So I got in touch with them. So summarize it. 5 years ago, buys a 543 square foot condo unit.
Yeah.
Not in downtown, but in the outskirts downtown Toronto, outskirts of
The GTA.
$770,000 purchase price 5 years ago.
Holy shit. Okay.
Now, when people stop, a lot of people do stop and comment. We've had comments on social media about, well, that's crazy. Why would anybody pay that much? I want to really fiercely point out that at that exact moment in time, when that purchase occurred, pre-construction purchase occurred, because it takes 5 years to finish them, right?
Yeah.
You're buying it in advance of, you can't take possession for 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. If we go back 5 years, 2019, it was a pretty decently buoyant time in real estate, but particularly for condominiums. Let me, what do I mean by that? For the previous 10 years, condominiums had drastically appreciated in price. If you bought, let's say you bought a condominium in 2009, they were all a little bit bigger then. Nobody had invented the 540 square foot condo yet, but nobody invented the true dog crate condo in 2009. But it would be a bigger condo. But imagine, what do you think the price of a small 1-bedroom would be in 2009?
Okay.
In Toronto, or on the outskirts?
I don't know, like 300,000-400,000.
269, 289.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Wow.
So the people who bought in 2009 made out great. Okay, because not only did the price go through the roof of the condo over the course of 10 years, but rents went up pretty dramatically too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We all know
so
that.
if you're an investor buying a condo for $289, your rent's probably up 50-60%.
Condo's
And
paid off.
your mortgage is is almost paid.
Yeah.
Okay, it's half paid.
Yeah.
So so this is the key for everybody to remember, because everybody, we have all these cognitive biases where we like to make, when anybody, it appears they've made a financial error, we like to point out to them that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with this.
You have to remember that at that point in time, it made sense.
Because based on past history,
yeah,
if past history just repeated itself, no worries. It was a great investment.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
But past history did not repeat itself. We won't list all the reasons why it went wrong.
It just did.
It went wrong.
Yeah.
So they paid $770. They gave $125,000 deposit, because you have to give deposits to a condo, big ones, not 5% or whatever. You have to give a lot. Okay, that's close to 20% on a 770. Okay, it's not quite, but it's up there. It's more than 15%. So $125,000 deposit. It's time to move in. Interim occupancy started about 4 or 5 months ago. Okay, in other words, they came in and said, "Here, take your keys. Go get a tenant. You have to start paying us interim occupancy fees." And he got to get it appraised because he needs a mortgage, right?
Right.
So he's got money for the rest of the down payment to get to 20%, but had to get it appraised. $600,000 is what it's worth today. So remember that he bought for $770, future delivery, and now it's time for delivery, but it's only worth $600 because the lender says, the bank says, we're going to appraise it. That's what he got. Okay. So that's sort of, it's a dead loss of $170 if you close.
Right,
but wait, there's more. When you have a mortgage for, the best you can get on a 600 value is a mortgage for 480, right?
Right, 80%.
So you got to put more money in. It's not just like you've got 125 in, but you need like a ton more money to get to 480. Okay, to get to the point where your mortgage covers. Okay.
Yeah.
But wait, I'm like the ShamWow guy. I gotta figure out whether the ShamWow guy's alive or dead. I thought he was dead, but maybe he's not dead.
No, one of them died. Yeah, one of them died.
One of those guys died? Okay,
yeah.
well, anyway, I don't know. I got a lot of comments saying, "Oh, ShamWow guy's fine. Don't say he's dead." Okay. I haven't seen him forever, though, right?
I know there's multiple, but I know one of them died. I know that.
Maybe I'm wrong about ShamWow, but one of them's dead. One of those guys who are always saying, "But wait, there's more." Okay, one of them's gone. All right. So, but wait, there's more. Okay. When he looks at what he can rent it for, because many people don't realize this, but within the GTA proper, like within 416, new rents are actually down slightly. They're down about 3 or 4% from the crazy peak of a year ago. Remember a year ago?
Yes.
Rents were fucking crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They're actually down a tiny bit.
Slightly,
okay?
but yeah.
Slightly, but down slightly. Okay.
Yeah.
So when he looked at what he could rent it for, even if with his 480 mortgage, because the rates are all up, right? The rates are up significantly. That's like a 5% rate. And with his condo fee, his monthly condo fee, and his property tax, he was, depending on what he could get for it, because remember, it's only 542 square feet. It's not downtown, okay? He was figuring he would lose if he took possession and paid a lot more cash, right? Like you got to go from 480 to 770, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's like 290,000 cash needs to go against this
basically,
thing. Okay?
yeah.
He looked at his rent, what rent he could get, and he said, I'm sure I'm going to lose between $1,000 and $1,500 a month every single month.
Holy
Negative
shit.
cash flow. Every month, I'm going to lose $18,000. I'm going to lose around $18,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay. Just if I get a tenant, and that's betting it's a good tenant. It's a tenant who doesn't turn into the tenant from hell. Okay? Quit paying. Okay. Because believe me, we got that in Ontario. We got a terrible landlord and tenant board, and things can go to rat shit. Okay. So at that point, he says, I don't want to do this. But what'll happen? So his lawyer tells him, well, what'll happen if you don't close is they'll seize your deposits. They'll sue you for whatever they can sell it for. Because they'll seize it and resell it, offer it.
Yeah.
Quick sale is probably not 600. Quick sale is probably 550 because you got to get rid of it quick, right? Okay.
Keeps getting worse.
Keeps getting worse. Okay. Oh, by the way, then there's selling expenses.
Right.
Okay? So he thought to himself, maybe I'll buy it. I'll bite the bullet. I'll buy it and then I'll try to sell it right away. But then it was really bad because he said, yeah, he agreed. He said, yeah, I think I'd have to sell it fast, like within 6 weeks. I'm probably like between 550 and 565, but I got 40,000 of selling expenses.
Yeah.
And I got to pay land transfer tax.
Yeah.
So, and he's in, if he's in one of the regions where there's double land transfer tax, he's paying like, it just goes to hell in a handbasket. Okay. So he says, no, so he says, well, find out what the builder would take just for me to walk away. So the builder said, we'll take $270 and we'll give you a release from your contract. So that's 125 plus the difference to 270, and you can get out of this thing.
Yikes.
So the last time I was in touch with him, he said, yeah, we're probably going to do that. We're going to try to negotiate it better. We're going to try to get down to like 240 or 245 or whatever it is.
210 would be ideal, but
210 would be good. Okay.
But
the builder negotiates hard. So yeah. So this is the incredible story of new construction condo problems in Southern Ontario.
And I'm sure he's not the only one going through this.
20,000 units coming on stream in the next 18 months. Brand new stuff coming for completion. Okay.
So would you say that like this would be a good time for anybody who's interested in owning a condo to, keep their eyes open? Because there might be an influx of people who just refuse or who just kind of buy out of their
Sure, but the builder still wants to try to sell it for as best they can,
right?
Because they've got their costs to recover too, right? Like they've got a mortgage, they've got to pay out the mortgage somewhere. They've got costs. It costs them money to build it, right? Probably cost them more to build it than expected because all kinds of construction prices went up. Construction material prices went up. Okay. So the builder can't give it away for $375, right?
Right, but if this keeps happening and there's so many of these situations of these tiny condos that are going up for sale, eventually isn't that going to have to bring the price down a little bit?
Jan, you have asked the $1 million question.
My question is, will I be able to buy one or like not trying to grab onto somebody else's vulnerabilities, but I mean
well, hold on, but it's still a very, very, very important question.
We would like to be in the market.
I've done a study on this thing.
Okay.
And because you always have to back it up to investors.
Right.
Okay. You have to back it up to somebody who could say, what price would somebody say, yes, I could buy at that price and rent and get a rent based on what rents are today. And I would make money. I would have positive cash flow.
Right.
What is that number? Okay.
What is the number, Ron?
It's about $375 to $395.
Oh, that's not happening.
We don't know that yet. Okay.
That's not happening.
Know that yet. Okay. All right.
It's Toronto.
And interest rates will come down. And mortgage rates will come down.
Yeah.
So, but listen, if you just work sheer math, that's the number. Okay. All right. So a great question, though. All right, so that's look. I'm going to guarantee you one thing: we're going to talk about these new construction condos for at least another year. Okay? It's just going to keep on coming. All right, it's the gift that keeps on giving. If you're in the podcast business, all right. So let's think about what else is going on. So we had as a follow up, you and I talked about it. I can't remember if it was last show or the show before that. Talked about this new kind of mortgage fraud where they're doing sort of B-lender mortgage fraud, alternative lender mortgage fraud. And they were not even trying to do fake income documents. They were saying, here's my bank statements, and I'm a business person. I want to have a bigger down payment, or I want to have a refund. I'm willing to pay more. I'm willing to pay higher interest rates to the alternative lender, and I'm willing to pay fees. I'm willing to pay, but here's my business bank statements that prove that I'm a successful business in order to get the mortgage. Okay. By the way, that's not a 5% down mortgage. That's like a 25% or 35% down mortgage. Okay. So we talked about the fact that they're actually doing fraud on that. They're making fake bank statements, right?
Yeah.
Well, boom. The next week, what happens? FSRA, the mortgage regulator, issues what they call a notice of proposal against three parties: a mortgage agent, a mortgage brokerage, and the principal broker of the mortgage. All, by the way, this is like fines. It's like fines against all these people.
Yeah.
And one of them was refused. The agent was refused renewal of their mortgage. Sorry, of their mortgage license. They can't get the license. They can't sell mortgages anymore. They're out.
Oops.
Okay. So all based on a case of fake documents. So it turns out there'd been a letter sent by, even so long ago, it was prior to FSRA. It was FSCO. It was the old regulator. Okay. So the old regulator sent a letter. We think this guy is doing
fraud,
fake documents, fake doing mortgage fraud. Okay, fake document fraud. Nothing happened. Then it goes something like that. So in 1 year, ending in 2021, so started in 2020, ended in 2021. That's my recollection, but it was a 1 year period. 19 fake alternative lender document fraud, just like we described, just fake business licenses, fake bank statements. 19 in 1 year for $12 million in mortgages. $123,000 in commissions. Okay. And the lender says, these are all fraud. All of them. It took us a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
And once we caught one, we went backwards in time and found they were all fake.
Oh, no.
Notified the principal broker, cut off the agent from ever using them again. And FSRA, this was a complaint that FSRA pursued. Okay. Because there were some of the people who were involved, like some borrowers were getting propositioned, hey, I'll make some fake documents if you want. I'll charge you extra along the way, and boom, boom, boom. Whew. So,
Yikes.
FSRA refused to renew the license of the agent, the broker, fined the actual brokerage, and fined the principal broker for exactly what we were talking about. Okay.
Wow.
So, look, I've covered this in other things I've done, but on social media, but let's just say it simply. We need the cooperation of the people who own brokerages, the principal brokers of brokerages throughout Ontario. Yeah. And some of them are great. Like I know some of them that are fantastic. I know some of them that are they're as ferocious on fraud as I am. They are as quick to say to their agents, this is wrong. Okay. Right. And they are monitoring it all the time. And they have just a strong will to stop it.
Right.
They support the idea of CRA linkage so it would all come to an end soon. Okay. Which we've talked about 100 times. Okay. But some brokerage owners and some principal brokers don't care. They just don't care. Well, we had the guy in London who was involved in the fraud. Okay. Hasn't been totally proven yet, subject to appeal. Right. But he did have the same notice of a proposal brought against them. Okay. So look, we just got to look, if you're doing a shitty job as a principal broker, if you're not following up when a lender says they're suspicious, if you're not being aggressive about letting agents go, if you're not being aggressive about checking on income, somebody comes, hey, I'd like to join your brokerage. Yeah, okay, you know how to bring in deals? Oh, yeah, I brought in like 25 million, 40 million in mortgages last year. Okay, well, sign up, baby. Okay, yeah. Like, why aren't you phoning around to find out, talking to lenders, talking to the old broker from the place he's left?
Your due diligence as like
do intense due diligence.
Yeah.
Before you find out, oh, guess what? This guy's a crook. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why couldn't you find that out before you hired him? Okay. Before you offered to put him into your brokerage.
Yeah.
Okay? So, hey, that's my shout out to all you principal brokers who do take this very seriously. Thank you. For all of you principal brokers who do not give a tiny fuck, fuck you. Yeah. Okay. Like, fuck you all. All right. Yeah. And quit pretending, quit lying that you really care when you don't really care. Okay.
Exactly.
You don't. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, answer. We got a couple of interesting questions from the listeners, the viewers today.
Okay. This one says, I don't understand this renewal I got. I have finished a 5-year mortgage and I started at 25 years amortization. Okay. But the letter says I have 17 years and 11 months left on the mortgage. Why not 20 years left?
Well, here's what we didn't research it we didn't reach out to the person and get every single detail or investigate it. We're not investigators, right? If you ask a question, we're going to give you the answer, but we're not detectives, okay? So what I will say is this. In all likelihood, that is you had you either made an extra payment somewhere along the line, but also very likely you had a good interest rate, like a rate that was lower, like a rate that's in the low 3s or high 2s, and you also had biweekly payments. Because if you have biweekly accelerated payments, remember that word accelerated, if you have biweekly accelerated payments and a good interest rate, that's what'll happen. You'll actually carve, in the course of 5 years, you'll carve a couple of years off your amortization because you were actually paying extra the whole time. Yeah. That's the secret of accelerated payments. You're paying like an extra month every year. And if you have a low interest rate,
it's even more.
It's a lot of interest is being paid off. So I guarantee you that is what the answer is there. So that does happen pretty consistently.
Okay. This one says, my condo board sends a letter of special assessment, elevator and roof repairs. They want $28,000 in 60 days. what the hell is this? The elevators work. Is this legit?
All right. So, okay. Yeah. All right. The special assessments do happen. Okay. They happen all the time in condo world. What it is you're probably living in a 15 or 20-year-old building. And what we have is the Condo Act in Ontario actually requires that the condo board or the property manager does a engineering study. At least, I think it's every 3 or 4 years. So the engineers can come in, study the hell out of the place and say, hey, these elevators are too old. We need to do major upkeep. Or the roof going to be leaky. Maybe not today, but it's going to be leaky soon.
Eventually,
so in other words, the elevators don't have to be broken, but they can just be, hey, we're engineers. We know. Going to need a fix.
Yeah.
It's eventually going to be unsafe. You need to take action now.
To prevent anything.
In the future. And that leads, in most cases, to a special assessment because you just want to start doing big repairs in a condo, especially if you go on 4 elevators or 6 elevators. Fuck me, that's going to be big money, okay?
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands. So a special assessment is the only real option to the board. So yeah, it's not a... I realize that everybody's upset and mad, okay? But it's not a completely uncommon thing. It happens probably pretty regularly in older buildings. And it's the law. It's the law of the province that you have to have engineering studies. You have to make sure that you have to have a good reserve. You have to maintain a reserve fund and grow your reserve fund. And you have to anticipate all of the repairs that might be necessary. And let's face it, it's every place ages, right? It doesn't matter. If you live in a house for 40 years, I guess you're probably going to go through a couple of roofs. And you might replace your windows, and you might there's some things that are going to go wrong.
For sure.
Okay?
For sure.
So it's the same in the condo. Like that, those elevators are in constant use, and they will eventually need repair.
I feel like it's a bit inconvenient though. 60 days to give them $28,000.
Not unusual. You're quite right.
It's
is a hell of a shock.
Inconvenient.
Very inconvenient. And most of the time, the board will authorize that you can make payments over the course of a couple of years.
I was going to ask if it's flexible.
It usually is. It usually is. I can't speak for every board. It usually is. But let's face it, they want their money. Like one way or another, they're going to get it. They have the powers under the Condo Act. The board has the powers under the Condo Act to get the money, period. Okay, so whether you pay it over a couple of years or whether you pay it all at once, you're going to pay it. That's for sure. Okay, those are interesting questions, actually. That's quite interesting. Okay, so what we got to think about a little bit is, we brought up earlier about is now the good time to buy a house, and we talked it over, and we get that question a lot, right? We always get on social media. We get that all the time. Should I buy now? Should I buy now? Should I buy now? And remember, in a general way, it's everything. Every region is different. Every single region is different. But in a general way, in the expensive regions, at this exact moment in time, my advice is, pause. Let's at least watch what happens into next year. I don't really truly believe that a 1% off in rates is going to drive these prices in the expensive parts of Canada into the stratosphere again. I don't believe it. I think, let's face it, for the last little while, they've been going down.
Yeah.
So they might
rates are too high, but yeah.
Which brings us to our favorite part of the program.
What the actual fuck?
Yeah. Like what the actual fuck is going on with Booze Communism in Ontario? Like, when they announced the strike, because just for people who live outside Ontario, in Ontario, and for the American people, they're just going to think, nah, that's fucking ridiculous. That can't be true, okay? American people are in Ontario, you can only buy hard liquor at the government store.
LCBO.
Only the government can sell you hard liquor in Ontario. I can just hear a guy in Florida right now. Hey, Martha, you know that fat guy's in that podcast again, and he must be fucking crazy because he's saying the government's the only place you can buy your booze. So that's it. It's Booze Communism.
It is. Okay? It is.
So look, I'm not an anti-union guy. A lot of guys are anti-union. I am not. Okay, but I believe workers deserve a fair wage. I always have. It's been my whole life. Okay, but something about having a monopoly. Okay, so I'm going to ask 2 questions. The main workers, the reason the workers are striking is because the government of Ontario wants to put more booze into corner stores, more wine, more coolers, more. It wants to push out the retailing And the workers, unionized workers in the LCBO, are afraid that the LCBO's employment pool is going to get smaller and smaller, okay? Or that maybe they'll privatize it all in eventually, okay?
Yeah.
And this is a first step. So to those people who are worried about that, all I have to say is, what the fuck? It's like every other place most places in the world, it's not a government selling you booze. So you took that risk when you signed on, okay? But hold on. The real problem I have is it's a monopoly. It's like the two fucking airlines. You know, we only got two airlines in Canada. We got Air Canada, WestJet.
Yeah.
So if you want to fly any place within Canada, 99% of the tickets are from those guys.
Yeah.
Right? I know Flair's going to send me some fucking email that I should know about these other little airlines, but it's a monopoly.
Tiny,
yeah, exactly.
They're
right?
tiny airlines.
Tiny, okay? So anything that's like, I've noticed this with WestJet and Air Canada, the prices are through the fucking roof, guys, okay? Because you got a monopoly. Same with the booze. Same with the LCBO in Ontario. Every time there's a monopoly, a strike is fucked up. We had the fucking disastrous WestJet strike. We had the Air Canada guys threatening to go on strike. We got all the prices are through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
But mostly, I got to say this. Booze communism must stop, okay? Like, it cannot be that a guy who wants to have a drink or a gal who wants to have a drink can't have their mojito in the fucking red. It's like fucking the surface of the sun out there today in Ontario, all right? It's hotter than balls, and you can't buy hard liquor. It's fucking nuts, okay?
Poor people are shaking with the strike.
Fuck me. Look, let's just agree on one thing. People are entitled to their mojito.
Yeah.
People are entitled to their tequila.
They want their drink.
They want their tequila shots.
Yeah.
God damn it. Okay. So bad. Booze communism in Ontario is bad. All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
See ya.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.